What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And I think at this point, we've finally moved past the excitement and the aftermath of the AFC Championship, and it's time to talk Super Bowl 59. And I'm going to be here to cover the game all week long. But today, I wanted to start with a video talking about a huge advantage that the Kansas City Chiefs have over the Philadelphia Eagles in this Super Bowl. And guys, this is a big one. So there was a graphic that I saw on Twitter earlier this week from NFL 33, or the 33rd team, actually, I should say. And it showed the pressure rates allowed for the 2024 to 2025 NFL playoffs between the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line and the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. So we do know that the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line has been a little bit at a disadvantage for the postseason, having Mike Caliendo at left guard. That's been a matchup in which has been taken advantage of by a couple of teams. You can see Mike Caliendo, he's allowing by far the highest pressure rate among the Chiefs offensive line. And that'll be a challenge that the Chiefs will have to navigate against the Eagles pass rush. But I will say that this Philadelphia Eagles pass rush is nowhere near as good as the one that the Chiefs faced off against in Super Bowl 57. So the Chiefs had that going for them. But that's not the advantage that I wanted to talk about in this game. The advantage comes with the Eagles offensive line versus the Chiefs defensive line. So as you can see, the Eagles offensive line is pretty solid across the board, but there's one pressure rate that sticks out, and that's center Cam Jurgens, who's allowing a 13.8% pressure rate this postseason. And then, of course, the second highest is Mekhi Becton, 9.4% pressure rate allowed, and that would actually be the highest allowed if you put him on the Chiefs offensive line. So that is a weak spot along the interior that the Kansas City Chiefs can take advantage of because, of course, they have Chris Jones. And as Steven Address says, who works for CBS Sports, they better be good to go for the Super Bowl because Chris Jones has the #1 pass rush win rate among defensive tackles, despite being double teamed 70% of the snaps, most of any defensive tackle in the NFL. Now, we also know that Chris Jones had a 33% pass rush win rate against the Buffalo Bills in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. And the Bills offensive line, I think, was better equipped to handle Chris Jones than the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. But that's not the only thing. So the Eagles practiced on Friday, and as Jeff McLean reports, Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson did not practice with those back and knee injuries that they've been dealing with for a couple of weeks. Now, of course, they did play against the Washington Commanders, but those guys are banged up on top of the fact that they are allowing a higher pressure rate right now than Eagles fans are probably comfortable with. So when you combine all that together, this is a matchup that Chris Jones could absolutely feast in. And if you let Chris Jones wreck the game, it's going to be very hard for the Eagles to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. And of course, I mentioned Chris Jones, but I mean, Tershawn Wharton has had a very good season and a great postseason. You have guys like Charles Omenihu and George Karlaftis who move inside from time to time that can take advantage of that matchup. But I think the Chiefs' edges have risen up to the occasion enough to where Chris Jones can eat inside in this game. The Eagles have a lot to handle just on the edges, but man, when you look at that Eagles interior versus Chris Jones, this just feels like a lopsided matchup. And if you can try to force Jalen Hurts to beat you while Chris Jones is turning up the heat with that interior pass rush, I just think this could be a recipe for disaster for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, that's a lot easier said than done, but man, you're going to have to get to the quarterback to win this game. You know, I've said it many times before, but I'm of the firm belief that there's two things you need in order to win in the postseason. One is quarterback play, but number two, right behind that, is pass rush. You have to have a good pass rush. I mean, if you look at the Chiefs' worst Super Bowl performance that they've had, Super Bowl 55, yes, the offensive line was the biggest reason they lost, but the defensive line only pressured Tom Brady 4 times in that game, the lowest pressure rate he's ever faced in a Super Bowl. It's no wonder that they tore them apart, because the Chiefs defense was just as bad in that game as the Chiefs offense. And that's why you got that blowout result. But that's besides the point. This is a game where I think the pass rush could have a really good game. And if you don't get to Jalen Hurts, you're not winning this game. But then everyone's going to say, Josh, what about Saquon Barkley? Like, the Chiefs have to stop Saquon Barkley. And I think this matchup also bodes well for the Chiefs' chances of stopping Saquon Barkley. Because again, if those guys aren't holding their blocks, it's not like you'd expect them to be much better in the run game. Nonetheless, the Eagles, they have had a good run game all year long, but how much of that is Saquon Barkley being Superman versus Cam Jurgens and Mekhi Becton being awesome when running to their side? I'm not totally sure about that, but I can tell you this: Chris Jones has become a much better run defender throughout his career, and he really turns up the effort when it comes to the postseason and trying to stop the run. And again, when you look at that matchup and Chris Jones's ability to shed blocks versus that Eagles interior offensive line, I think they have a really good chance to stop Saquon Barkley in this game, especially on those inside runs. Now, the Chiefs will still have to have the linebackers engaged, and they'll have to contain when they run to the outside. But not only does this help you when trying to rush the passer and get to Jalen Hurts, which is going to be key in this game, but I think this also signifies that the Kansas City Chiefs have the capability to stop Saquon Barkley in this game, because they have a lot of guys on the defensive line that are able to shed blocks and make tackles in that run game, and at least have someone on that first level of the defense get their hands on Saquon Barkley. That's going to be key in stopping him, because you can't let him get to that second level and try to hope and pray that guys like Drew Tranquil and Nick Bolton are going to be able to chase him down. That's not a good matchup. Neither of those guys are sideline to sideline type of linebackers. Leo Chanel has been great this year, obviously, and he's also been great in the postseason. But that's still not a matchup that you want with Saquon Barkley easily getting to the second level of the defense. You're going to have to get your hands on him. But again, when you look at this matchup, I think the Chiefs are at a huge advantage. And I'm just going to throw the chart up one more time. Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, Lane Johnson. Obviously, the Eagles still have very good tackles, but this interior is just simply not as good as it was in Super Bowl 57 when they had Jason Kelce manning the front. And Mekhi Becton, he's had a good year, especially, after suffering injuries very early on in his career. He's kind of had a bounce back with the Eagles, but still 9.4% pressure rate. That's not exactly ideal. So that's what I'm looking at in this game. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs have a huge advantage. And we'll talk more about the offensive line this week, because I'm sure people are going to have some comments about that. Oh, Jawan Taylor, it seems like he's allowing a somewhat high pressure rate. Same thing with Trey Smith. I'm going to break that down more this week, but I just wanted to talk about the huge advantage that the Kansas City Chiefs have in this game, and that is Chris Jones versus the Eagles offensive line. Really the entire Chiefs defensive line, but man, Chris Jones on the interior, that's the matchup you look at and say, whew, that does not look good for Philadelphia. So that's all I got for this one, guys. Just wanted to talk about that to kick off Super Bowl coverage this week. But I definitely want to hear from you all in the comments what your thoughts are on those numbers and what you think Chris Jones can do in this game. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this one there. So all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. And make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com for more. Last but not least, follow me on Twitter at showmefb. That'll all be down in the description below. I am signing off. I will see you guys in the next one. But as always, go Chiefs!